Welcome to FoundHer Rising, the podcast for women founders in wellness coaching and consulting who are ready to build businesses that create freedom, impact, and income. I'm your host, Christine Huckala, business coach, former psychotherapist, and mentor to women scaling service-based businesses. Today, I'm joined by Sara Coyle. She's the founder of Connected Roots Therapy and a registered social worker in Ottawa, Canada. She works with children and teens, families, and adults navigating complex emotions and experiences, including life with type 1 diabetes, using somatic experiencing and a relational approach. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. So glad to have you here and have you share your story with us. Let's just dive right in. So 2019 was when you started your private practice. What was going on in your life, in your work that kind of led to you deciding to go out on your own?
Yeah, that seems like so long ago now that I'm thinking
know,
like
right?
2019.
7 years.
It's like pre-pandemic times. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the whole world.
Yeah. So 2019, I was actually working in child welfare. I had been for a few years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And part of that, I worked in a clinical program that sort of consulted for child welfare. And in that work, I was starting to get an opportunity to do some training in dyadic developmental psychotherapy. Wow. It's a bit of a mouthful, DDP, don't have to remember it. But yeah, and so I started to get some training in that and really loved it and wanted to kind of have some more opportunities to do that in a therapeutic setting, like more traditional therapy role. Yeah. And so I started working at a naturopathic clinic, just kind of one evening a week on
what
top
a great
of
collaboration.
Yeah, it was great. It was really nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of like got me started. And then it just sort of grew from there. Like I loved it. And then, life happened after that. So it kind of unrolled
not exactly
there.
like you were part of a group practice, but like the naturopath, they had their own clinic and then you came on as an associate there.
Yeah. So I think there was massage therapists, naturopathic doctors, physiotherapy, and then there was a couple of us doing therapy as well. Psychotherapy. Yeah.
Nice. So you kind of got your feet wet in someone else's practice. And then what was it that led you to deciding, okay, like I'm going to open up my own private practice?
Yeah, I think a lot. There was a lot of like
I'm
sort of
timelines in my head, and I imagine there was a lot going
on. That time there was a lot going on, and I think it was like sort of like a cumulative piece, right? So for starters, like working full time in child welfare at the time and feeling like it was a lot. I loved my job. I had like a great team of people that I worked with. I love the work I do, but it was heavy work. And so that was kind of one contributing factor, thinking about like kind of what sort of balance do I want in my life? And the other piece was, we were just coming out of COVID. So I think that changed all of our worldviews and sort of how we want to live as well. And then at the same time, I got a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. Oh, wow. So I was thinking, it made me think about my health in a different way too. Yeah. And, not that like we always sort of think about that, but it's just really shifted. It became very prominent in how do I take care of myself and what does that look like? Yeah. So that was all happening. And then at the same time, again, another factor as I had, was going through a breakup of a long-term relationship. Wow. So it all kind of came together where I was like, okay, what do I want to do next? Right? Holy. Where do I want to go? What do I want my life to look like? And that's when I decided, like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a chance. I actually moved to Ottawa.
I just have to jump in and ask you right here. I'm so curious. So, it's great. I'm imagining you living through COVID, like we all did, right? Under different circumstances. Also going through, a breakup of a long-term relationship, transitioning your career, not exactly what you were doing, but the way that your professional life looked. And at the same time, getting a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. Like that is a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
For you, like, what was it that came to the surface that you realized was like a real value of yours or a real priority that kind of informed the shift?
I think it made me slow down and think about a lot about like, how do I want to live? Right?
Wow, yeah.
Where do I want to live? What do I want my life to look like? And like all these questions really being, it kind of felt like a pivotal time to really sort of put myself first and think, okay, what do I want to do? Whereas, previously, like I kind of did the things that you're supposed to do and followed that sort of linear line. And I was living in my hometown, which I loved and was really hard to leave. But I think it was just thinking about like, what do I want my future to look like? And all of those things, I think alone probably impact that. But all together, it was like, okay, I have an opportunity here to sort of like make the best of this. And what do I want to do?
Yeah. As someone myself who's a very futuristic thinker, I often find myself wishing that all of us collectively had more opportunities to just have that pause and go, what am I really doing here? What is it that I want to do? What's important to me? And it's unfortunate and also really common that we have those moments when crisis hits or, when life is really like, whether it's rock bottom or just really difficult. What was it specifically for you about going into private practice that made you think like this lifestyle, having my own business, can actually check the boxes of what it is that I do want to build for myself?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is balance. It really allowed me to, like, in a sense, I work way less, and in another sense, I work way more now. Like, it's just kind of like,
I get that.
It's like different work. But I get to choose it all. I get to choose how much I work. I get to choose what I'm working on. When I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to shift here. I can make the shift. I don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to like make any huge decisions really. I'm just like, you know what? I'm kind of into this week. Let's like explore this a little bit, like, so there's a lot of freedom in that and a lot of balance. It also lets me, I remember when I was like moving to Ottawa and a big part, and I had moved about 3 hours away and, that was like moving away from all my family and friends. And that was like the biggest factor for me that made it hard to go. And I was like, okay, well, like, I want to be able to like visit everybody and see everybody and still be a part of, everyone's lives in the same way, but also be kind of doing the thing that's really important to me. And private practice let me do that because I take Fridays off. I can go back home for the weekend if I want to, or I am very lucky to have lots of family and friends come visit me all the time too. They like coming here. So, it's allowed me to do that. And, my partner and I, we love to travel. So it gives us lots of opportunity to do that. I just, take a week here or there, wherever I want. Right. So it's really nice. Lots of flexibility.
I really appreciated what you said about how, in some ways I work harder and then in some ways it's easier. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because I hear from a lot of female service providers, they have these ideas and rightly so. We hear a lot on social media and elsewhere about what it's like to own your own business. And many of it is just kind of like dangling this golden carrot that doesn't always come into fruition. But the thing that people do realize is it's not really any less work. It is a lot more work in a certain way because now you're not just performing a service, you're running a business. But like you said, it comes with these trade-offs. It's hard work, but now we're building something that's ours. We're building something that we're aligned with, where we feel like we can really be in service to the world. And like you mentioned, it also comes with these trade-offs of now I can choose when I work. If I don't want to work Fridays, I don't have to. If I want to take a week off, I don't have to, apply for permission from a boss. And it's for you that trade-off was worth it to you.
It was, and it still is. Yeah, I love that.
I love that.
That freedom and flexibility, right? It's amazing. And I also I had this idea of what it would look like originally, but it shifts and changes all the time. And sometimes someone will ask me like, oh, can you come out and do this activity or go on this trip or whatever? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, I have to work. And then I'm like, wait, I'm my own boss. I can just
let me go ask my boss.
I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can. Like, I can say yes to these things and sort of have work fit around my life and not the other way around, which is nice.
Yeah. I want to get to some of the shifts and changes that have evolved in your practice over the years. But first, if you could say a little piece about when you first went out on your own, what were some of the early things that contributed to your success or just, reaffirmed to you, like, I can do this thing?
A few things. I think the way I did it was really helpful. Like, I didn't just kind of go out on my own out of nowhere. I started at that naturopath clinic, right?
Yeah,
I was able to... Yeah, it was like a stepping stone, and I had built a bit of a caseload. Like I had clients, because of COVID, we learned virtual. And so when I moved to Ottawa, I was able to bring all my clients with me because it didn't really matter where they lived. Right. Yeah. So I already had this sort of like solid client caseload that I could start from. Yeah. And it was small, but I was able to grow on that. Yeah. Another piece is that I actually did all my somatic experiencing training in Ottawa. So I had lots of connections in the therapy world here.
Wonderful.
So that made a big difference.
Just like getting referrals and having that niche.
Yeah. And people that I knew, and, in somatic experiencing, it's like, I always say, it's a totally different kind of training. You really get to know each other, right?
Yeah, doing your own personal therapy at the same time.
Yeah. So it's really good. And even now, those are people that I refer to because, I trust them as practitioners and I know them. And so having that network, like, really made a huge difference. Yeah.
I don't talk about this often, but you and I were sharing before we started recording that I have my somatic experiencing training as well. I did it over 10 years ago. And I think now about the people in my network, and still there's a core few who I met in those early days, doing my training and doing sessions. And I totally resonate, whether it's through a specific type of training or any other type of network, with how important that can be in building the early foundation and leveraging those relationships. One, so you don't feel isolated, but then also in those early days of building your business and getting word of mouth referrals.
Absolutely. And when I first moved here too, I was able to use those connections to I worked at a couple of those people's clinics, right? To start off. And that was really nice. They, they were like, yeah, absolutely. Like, come on in. So that was very welcoming. And I knew those people. So it wasn't, didn't have to start from zero. Yeah.
We can underestimate the power of our network sometimes.
Yeah. And those relationships are so important.
Quick resource for you. If you've hit consistent revenue, but working harder isn't creating more growth, I put together a free guide called From 10K to 40K Months. It breaks down what actually has to change when you move from solopreneur energy into real scaling. Structure, profit, team, capacity, not just marketing tactics. If you're ready for growth that feels sustainable instead of chaotic, go download it. It's free. The link's in the show notes. Now, back to the conversation. So you offer more than just one-on-one therapy, right? I don't mean just one-on-one therapy. That's a therapy in and of itself, but you've expanded. You do more these days. Talk to us a little bit about the evolution of your business and what you do now.
Yeah, so I guess kind of coming from that, what we were just talking about early on, I sort of expanded, and I sort of started once, I had more clients and I was feeling really good. I was like, okay, I want to have my own space. And so I started with renting my own office space. So that I was kind of like totally on my own, just working under my name. And then I really wanted to, it's kind of always been a dream to have a group practice. And, I have a colleague and one of my best friends, and we always will talk about what do we want to do in the future? Like, how is this clinic going to look? Right. And we love doing that together. And so I've always known I want to work towards that. And so in the fall, I was like, okay, I think my friend's name is Taylor, and the two of us, I think we sort of encourage each other and support each other. And so she was starting, and I was like, okay, I'm going to join. I'm going to do this too. And we've sort of helped each other do that, which is
So do you run the business together, or you each have your own business?
We each have our own businesses, but we are super linked. And we would love to have one together, but we live far away from each other.
The virtual world is making that more and more possible.
Right. Yeah. We do lots of things together, and, we meet once a week, and and do peer supervision with each other, like business brainstorming. And we couldn't do it without each other. Like that's
I
so
love that.
important.
I have an accountability partner who's a good friend as well, who I also meet with every week, and I encourage that for every business owner.
Yeah, it's so necessary.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So that's kind of where that sort of started. And so that's when I kind of came up with my name, Connected Roots Therapy. And it kind of started going from there. And I thought, all right, well, let's hire some contractors because, Taylor was giving me that little bit of push, like, come on, do it. Why aren't you doing it? And I'm like, that's right. So and it was amazing. And one of my contractors, she worked it with me for years. I know her really well. So that felt like a really nice place to start. And I'm so glad to have both of them with me now. So
that's so exciting. I love hearing about this evolution. As you know, and as many of our listeners know, when you first go into business by yourself, you're putting on your business owner's hat for the first time. There's these particular challenges we come up against of just, what am I doing? How do I start this thing? I don't filing taxes or licensing or all the things. And then getting the first clients and getting your name out there on a website. And there's all these challenges that come with opening up your business and that come in the first few months and the first few years. And then what a lot of us, either do or don't anticipate, as the case may be, is the new set of challenges that come when you start to diversify your offerings. And I'm curious to hear from you, what were some of the things that came up that were either a learning curve or unexpected that you suddenly realized, this is an area that I need to grow as a business owner now as you stepped into a group practice?
Yeah, I think a few things. The first thing coming to mind, I'm still very much in it. This is very new, and I'm loving every minute of it, honestly. But
that's amazing.
I think one of the biggest surprises to me actually was that I thought, because I have a wait list and I have lots of networking for myself in the community, that I thought once I brought on independent contractors that they would be full so fast. And I'm like, I have all these people on my wait list I can send to them. But I found that people on my wait list were like, oh no, we're on your wait list. Yeah. And I was like, no, but this person's really great. And this person's really great. And which is true, but they were just like, no, but I signed up for you, so it was hard to shift people from that kind of mindset, I guess, or expectation. So that surprised me a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, I have to do marketing a little bit differently. It's so that's something I'm learning. And marketing in general is something I'm learning. I'm having fun with it though. But I'm learning, the learning curve is steep and I'm figuring out as I go. So you and thousands. I'm trying to think, is it thousands, billions, hundreds of thousands? There's a lot of service providers out there. And I'm really glad that you named that shift, because it's a shift that catches most service providers off guard when they bring in other service providers to their business. And that shift when we move from one-on-one to whatever it is, whether it's bringing in other independent contractors or launching a group or a workshop, it makes sense to think, I succeeded doing what I was doing through word of mouth referrals or a directory profile or whatever it was that got you, that first level of success of filling your one-on-one business. But anytime we shift the offer, and especially when we bring in other service providers, it fundamentally changes how people are in relationship with our business. And it's something that unless you've lived through it or you've been explicitly taught about, I don't think it's intuitive to anticipate that. And why it happens is because our businesses are often built off of those word of mouth relationships. We've built trust with people who feel good about referring to us. But then when the offer changes or the contractor changes, the service provider changes, that trust changes. And it's not that it's broken. It's not that you've done anything wrong. It's just that as you realized, you said, I have to change how I'm doing my marketing, because now it's no longer about building trust with me. It's about lending credibility and building, a brand and a reputation around not just the people you've brought on, but around your business. Yeah, exactly.
What have you found has worked or started to work, and what hasn't worked at all as you've made some of these pivots?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell at this point, I think, what's working and what's not, but
still dipping your toes in.
I'm still dipping my toes in. But some things that I'm doing that I'm hopeful are going to work well is, one of the things I do is I try to rely on sort of like the more like old school kind of going out in person and talking to people. Yeah. So I famously now have in my purse at all times cards for like all of us at Connected Roots, and I have a little poster, like just a little postcard kind of thing. Yeah. And like anywhere I go, I'm you know, at the coffee shop or at the gym or wherever, I'm like, oh, can I put this up? Or like, do you want to hear about this? Like, so
I love that.
Always kind of talking about it, and I think that absolutely is helping, is like lots of having conversations and just being at top of mind for people. And it might not be right now, but down the road, they're going to think of us. And so I'm enjoying that. And I think that will pay off. The other thing that I'm doing lots of social media, and I'm just like, I don't know how effective that is at this point, but I have fun with it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And the other piece is thinking about like kind of getting more creative about ways to market, and one of those being, and you know, Taylor was the one that had kind of like brought this up to me, and I was like, oh, this is genius, was around sponsorship. And so there's actually a breakthrough type 1 diabetes walk, and it's for Ottawa-Gatineau, and that's in June. Wow. And so Connected Roots is going to sponsor that, and we'll have a booth there. And that'll, I'm really excited about that, because diabetes I'm very passionate about, and that community is a community I'm part of, and also my clients are part of, so it'll be really cool to be there and get to talk to people. But like, it's also such a wonderful marketing opportunity too, that I think I'm gonna have lots of fun there, and it'll probably help with marketing as well. So thinking about things like that. Yeah,
I love that. And to the degree that it's helpful, Sarah, I'll just reflect back that the things you're sharing that are working and not working are aligned with what I see bigger picture working and not working. And
that's great.
I'll start with the not working, and then I'll get to the good stuff. What I see not working for smaller businesses is relying on posting on social media. Every once in a while, I'll come across somebody who, you know, has a lucky horseshoe along with them. That has worked. But generally speaking, now people are so sensitive online, and there's so much noise in the digital world. And even in a bigger business, even as you're growing an associate practice, trust and relationships are still built face to face, you know, and that doesn't have to be in person anymore. Like, luckily we have, you know, the digital platforms where we can connect. But that connection is so important. And when I see service providers trying to attract people through their Facebook page, through their Instagram, and they're spending all this time and money, you know, posting and posting and posting, and they say, I do all these things, or I spend this money on ads, and I'll say, how is it working? Well, it's not.
Exactly.
I see that work for bigger companies, usually in multi six figures, when they have a lot to spend on ads. But it normally takes several thousands of dollars of ad spend and a really great strategy to get that to work. And most early service providers under 100K, just starting to scale, aren't in a position where that typically makes sense, because the amount of time and money you have to put into it to be competitive, to get it to work. It's not that it's the wrong strategy, period, but it can be many times the wrong strategy at the wrong stage. What I do hear working and see working time and time again is what you're doing with the networking. We sometimes call this cold outreach, which can give female service providers like a negative feeling initially, but really what it is getting clear about who you serve. You know, I love your niche of type 1 diabetes. I know you serve more than that, but it's a really clear niche. People can resonate with that. And I think whatever we're suffering from, whatever life experiences we have, you know, are often comorbid with some sort of mental health issue, whether it's just stress or anxiety or depression or relationship issues. But when we can talk about the niche we serve, you know, in tandem with something else that helps people really identify of like, oh, this person gets me, gets my lived experience.
Exactly.
And also this other thing I'm suffering from, like, that's the kind of thing that can really set you apart. So to look for places like the walk, you know, the sponsorship opportunity you mentioned, groups and organizations that are similarly minded, or where your ideal client is hanging out, and showing up in person, like not just with your card, but saying, hey, I'm Sara, like, what do you do? How can I help?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Relationships, time and time again, I see businesses that are doing that and that are focused on that really thrive. So I think you're doing a lot of the right things in that sense.
Yeah. Well, that's reassuring. That's good to hear.
Good. I could talk about marketing till the cows come home, Sara, but I'm curious, right. What's one or two other pieces that you've either started to experience or you anticipate are going to be areas of growth for you as a business owner as you continue to grow?
Areas of growth, kind of looking forward?
Yeah.
I'm hoping to keep growing my team. Like I like, that's something I really, really miss about working within an agency is, I was so lucky to have like a team of amazing colleagues, and we're all still connected. And I really miss that. Like I miss that, like coming into the office, we had Monday team meetings. So like coming into the office and seeing everybody, hearing how your weekend's going, right? Just like that connection piece. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that we can build that at Connected Roots long term. Yeah. And I try not to get too ahead of myself. I tend to be the slow and steady kind of growth.
That's a great quality to have as a business owner.
Yeah. So that's sort of like, that's kind of the dream, right? But, slowly trying to kind of build that community, both among like our clients, but also within our team together, and being that support for each other is really important to me. And I've started just with the three of us that are there right now. We'd have like Thursday night group supervision. So we're kind of like, that's one thing we're starting, and I'm hopeful that it will continue to grow from there and really be able to be there for each other. Yeah. And have that connection and community.
I really see and can feel your focus on the relational aspect and how important it is to have the right people around you and to build on those relationships. And it's such a fundamental aspect of building a strong team. One of the things that I see come on the heels of that really quickly in a business like yours, and I'm curious if you've given thought to this, is do you foresee yourself needing an administrative assistant, in the next few months or year, or, more systems to create things, to just make more consistency across the team with all these different people? What are your thoughts on that?
100%. I'm learning, how to, I'm a pretty organized person, but I'm like, this is already a lot to stay on top of. And I actually interviewed someone last week for a virtual assistant, because I'm like, I don't know, and I don't need it all the time, but just a couple hours here and there to get some help. And I think, asking for help is a good plan at this point. Yeah. And also because I'm still carrying a full caseload myself. So to be doing that one-on-one work, and then also all of the admin and all of the marketing, it's a lot of work. And some days, I feel like I'm working all day long and it doesn't really turn off. So, and that's not why I got into this. I got into to have balance and flexibility, and that's really what I value. So I'm like, okay, you know what? It's time to ask for some help here. So,
just because we can do all the things doesn't mean we should.
Exactly.
And I'm really glad to hear that you're thinking about this already. Most of the people that I meet, or I have clients come in and they're struggling, they're overwhelmed, they're stretched thin. One of the biggest issues is they've actually just hired too late. They've waited and felt not ready and nervous about the expense. But then what happens is they get bottlenecked, and the business's growth actually stagnates because they're spending so much of their time and energy keeping the business going day to day, and they feel really busy, but most of that is actually not contributing to the growth of the business. So one of the best decisions we can make is hire actually a little bit before we feel like we're ready to get that person trained, get those things off our plate, so we've got some breathing room to keep focusing on what matters.
Yes, that is the goal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're on the same page. So tell me, Sara, as you look into the future, the next, year, the next 2 to 3 years, what's one thing that you're most excited about in your business?
I'm most excited for the growth in the team aspect, which I know I already mentioned. But I think that, and just having a team of support, that's really important to me. I am looking forward to being able to I love one-on-one work, but I also want to kind of reduce that a little bit so I can do more supervision and more group work. I would love to run some groups, which like I just haven't had the space to yet.
Yes, that administrative might help.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really looking forward to being able to just have more time with my family and friends and with my partner, and like having more balance. As my business grows, I'm hopeful that will sort of level out more. Yeah, that'll give me that opportunity to, have all of these important things in my life. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey and just a bit about what your experience has been like in business. If there are listeners who want to learn more about what you do or get in touch, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Sara Coyle, no H on Sarah. So Sara Coyle on LinkedIn. And on Instagram, we're connected.roots.ottawa. And I think where else would my website? I should include my website. My website is connectedroots.ca.
Thank you, listener, for tuning in to FoundHer Rising. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the show, share it with another founder, and leave a quick review. It helps more women find these conversations. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or learn more at hucklehorizons.com. Until next time, keep rising and keep building the business that gives you freedom to live, lead, and create on your terms.